So I said I was going to start working on putting the seat inside of the car, which was entirely the plans, because I do have the seat and I have the brackets that are for the seat itself, but I don't have the mounting bracket for the Fox body chassis yet. So I thought it was going to be here by now, and then I checked my shipping, said it won't be here for like another few weeks. So we're going to move on to the next thing. We have two options. I have stuff to start running the brake lines, the hard lines across the car, but I just got this. So this is from Universal Drive Shafts. I'm going to see if my measurements were right and make sure that this actually fits up in there first. Sadly, even if it does fit, I have something else I got to do, but we'll explain that in a second. So one of the first things that I have to do now is actually just remove this guy because we aren't going to be using it. I think it's called a Weibo or something, but we're going to directly mount the drive shaft to the output shaft of the transmission. All right, I know it's going to be hard to show efficiently on camera, but we have our drive shaft completely in place. Back here I have new hardware from Ford, but up front here I'm going to have to measure this distance right here so I can get permanent hardware. That right there is one of the bolts that came out of that rubber boot. This is just something I had just to support it, but what I'll do is I'm going to measure this with my caliper and then take this bolt somewhere. That way I can get the exact length I need based off of this and this thread pattern, and hopefully I get something with a flange head on it. But I know that it works because if I take this piece over here, where is it? If I put this transmission in neutral, she spins, doesn't rub anything, and my tires move. The only thing I have now is that. I've been hiding it for a little bit, or just really not talking about it, but the seal I put in this side has been leaking since I put the thing together. Brand new seal from Ford. I think I just got a bad one, but I have to put another new one in there, which kind of sucks. But I'm gonna try to do it without taking the whole differential out. I have a plan, and I have a way to try and make sure that doesn't happen again. So I think the next thing I have to do, sadly, is take this side of the suspension back apart, or I just drop the differential down, but we'll try and do it with it in the car. I'm just gonna start taking this apart and swap it out. I don't think I need to record this. You guys have already seen me put this whole rear differential together, right? Or if you haven't, go back and watch. But I don't need to reiterate it. I will show you what I plan on doing to try and stop this from happening again. I'm not really gonna have a good way of showing you how I'm doing it, but basically this is what I'm using to help fix my issue or any potential leaks in the future. I've got my new seal here. I'm gonna put a bead of this stuff around the outside of it and on what this actually gets pressed into. This doesn't actually dry to a complete solid gasket. It's a semi-drying, right? Semi-drying liquid gasket. And the point of it for me is to just help if this outside is what's actually leaking. So I need to wait for the differential to stop leaking fluid from that one where this goes in, clean it up with some brake clean, get something on this, get it on the actual differential, and then go ahead and hammer it back together. So yeah, that should fix my issue. So I'm kind of in this weird spot, other than my whole shop being a mess and me having like no time to be here. I want to put the brake system in, and I ordered new calipers and brackets. They're by Power Stop. They're 0304 front Cobras. Problem is I've ordered the front driver side twice, and it's come with a front passenger caliper bracket 2 different times. They're supposed to be sending me out another set directly from the manufacturer, but I haven't heard anything back, and it's been a couple weeks. So I'll have to reach back out to them, but I don't want to stop making progress. I have added a little bit of coolant, not enough to actually, get the thing set, but did that. That's one step closer to being drivable. I want to continue with the brakes. What I think I'm going to do is start running the lines. So I'll install my master cylinder, and then I will run the line into the body of the car, into the main cabin, because I want to put my proportioning valve for the back near me in the passenger seat. Obviously, this is just a total mess, but I've got a proportioning valve, the Willwood proportioning valve, And this I want to put somewhere reachable. It's not something I'm going to be changing like lap by lap or anything like that, but I want it to be within arm's reach. Another problem, I have a seat. I have the seat side brackets. I ordered a bracket to mount the seat, hasn't come in. It was supposed to be shipped out the beginning of this year, early January, end of December, and I've got nothing. Problem with that is I don't know exactly where I want to put that until I have a seat in it. I may just throw my factory seat, the passenger side seat that I have just sitting right over there, in it, get me kind of close, but I don't know. The other thing is I need my shifter in place. Can't really put my shifter exactly where I want it because this is something I will be using all the time without my seat mounted. So kind of in this weird spot of a bunch of things. So I got my master cylinder in place. I also have this top fitting on both of these, and basically they're to make it work with the same style fittings that I ordered. They're just adapters. It also reduces it down to the 3/16 line. I'm going to be running this front port to the back in through the car. So this is the nickel copper line. If any of you guys watch Super Fast Matt, I will put a link down in the bio. If I don't, just remind me in the comments. Either way, to his video on how to do it. But basically, I'm following his steps on how to do it because I think it was a pretty smart way of doing it. Regardless, I need to figure out how I'm going to get this into the car. I think I'll be utilizing this hole right here that's already open and just putting a grommet around it. So I'll figure out exactly how I plan on running that down and then let you guys know. So this is the tool that I have to make these brake lines, and it's actually really easy. So easy I can do it with one hand and record, I think. Basically, put your line through the proper size die, and then make sure that you have your fitting on that you need. First step, put the put the hose through it, right? Snug this up. Don't tighten it down, just snug it up a little bit, and then do operation 0. And make sure that this is at the right depth every single time. Super easy. Just remember, before you do any of this, you want to deburr those ends after you cut them. So we'll go over to our 3/16 operation 1, and then just like this does operation 1. And depending on your fitting, that might be what you're doing, that might be it. But I need to go to operation 2 for the 3/16, which is over here, and then do operation 2. And just like that, I'm done. So if I loosen this, just like that, I've got my completed end. And then because this is so flexible, I can go now back to the car and get it ran the way I wanted. So right here is the rough shape that I have made out. I'll set it just right here so you can kind of see. Pretty simple. Goes down, has a 90, over, up, and then hopefully that fits right into the car. I could have done it longer and then actually completed the pieces, like technically kind of inside or whatever, cut it. But this should be a good serviceable size. If I was doing all of this outside of the car, let's say I was just running underneath to go to the back of it, it would be so much easier. As far as having like one piece, that's also serviceable. But I'm doing it inside, so I'll put a joint onto whatever the next piece is that I need. So I have this piece right here. The reason why I have it just floating around in this area is because from the factory, you have a piece that mounts to the body here. You can kind of see some of the holes right there. That's to hold the center console in place. I don't think I'm gonna have a center console, but if I put that little piece of metal back in, I should be able to screw this onto it. And then this will give me the location for it, close to where the seat is, but not in the way of anything. But for now, I can just leave it there. Next step we have to do, we have to figure out how I'm gonna get this outside of the car in the back. And then once it's outside the car, we'll come underneath. And underneath the car, I need to get it to attached up there. That's the distribution block from Maximum Motorsports to work with the IRS brake setup. So once I figure out how I'm gonna get out of the car, then I can wire it up into there. I took this T off of the car. The reason why is because the way I'm running it, it has to make a hard angle out. And obviously with these not being pre-bent lines and I'm putting the fittings on, I wanted to make sure that it worked. So I did this 90 with that little bender, and then what I did after that is I just kind of bent it by hand. Not too much because you don't want to kink the line, but with this being the nickel copper line, it's really easy to bend by hand. So now that I have this kind of where I want it, I'll go ahead and I'll mount this back up in the car, and then we'll see where I have to bend it to get it into the car, and I'll show you how I did that once I'm there. All right, so I drilled out that hole inside of the body of the car, and then I have this very roughly laid out piece, but basically it's going in, over, and then hooking around for this, that way it can go in. And then I'm just gonna hand bend it around to where I want it, that way it can line up to this once I have it kind of in place. Again, that's the big advantage of this more malleable brake hose, so I'll show you it when it's done. So I got the brake lines just kind of sitting roughly where they need to be. I don't have the bracket that I need to have that mounted in place. And then I also put the brake calipers on both sides and the rotors just to get them kind of sitting in place. But realistically, it's not too hard. You can look in the instructions, but you just run it along the frame on each side and call it good. So I think the next thing that I'm going to do is actually go work on the front and get the one caliper in the front that I can.